Hello everyone, welcome back to the FetchQuest podcast where we talk about video games and more. I am your host Guy, joined by my fellow co-host Connor.
Hello.
Hey Connor, what are you doing currently?
Nothing much. I'm just playing the new Mario Kart World. I was able to get a demo version.
Alright, cool. I mean the gameplay looks great. Dude. Suck it, it looks like Bones actually.
What the hell are you talking about? The visuals look incredible, Guy.
Bro, what do you mean? The game looks awful.
I mean, it doesn't, but either way, who cares? The visuals are what's important, not the graphics.
No! What the fuck are you talking about? It's the graphics that matter the most.
Wait, what's even the difference?
Well, I don't know actually.
Sounds like we need to delve further into this topic.
Holy shit, I guess you're right! Let's get into it! So yeah, today we're going to be talking about visuals versus graphics. What does it mean in the visuals versus graphics debate? Why is it important, and what do we prefer over the other? I'll talk about in today's video. Yeah, so let's get into this. Connor, I know, if I'm going to take a guess, you're the type of person to prefer visuals over graphics.
Yes.
Oh, really?
I know, it's almost like the intro alluded to that fact. It's crazy.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yes, but I will always be a person who prefers to have a game that artistically looks great over one that looks technically great. And, some of my favorite games ever are just incredibly impressive visually.
Hell yeah. No, that's what's up. Personally, I'm also a visuals over graphics kind of guy, because, I really couldn't care about graphics because, having realistic graphics just really doesn't add all too much in my opinion, and frankly, I could do without. But yeah, no, let's get into today's topic. I'm excited to talk about this. We need to define...
Yeah, I was about to say that, too. It's we should probably start off with defining what the actual difference between the two is. Because I know that
of course.
Because those two terms get... Yeah, I mean, even I do it, where those two terms get used interchangeably a lot.
When they are completely different, yeah. No, yeah, let's get into this. So basically, with visuals, it's the art style of the game. There's different types. You have cel-shaded, you have pixelated, hell, even realism is an art style. One of my favorite games uses art style, I think, extremely well, being The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. With the cel-shading art style, they hide the fact that the game graphically cannot perform, at the peak of what gaming can be, by using its art style to make up for that fact. And I think it does it swimmingly. And then you have performance. Graphical fidelity, which deals with the performance of a video game, where basically it's trying to reduce the amount of polygon. The less polygons there are, typically that means there are better graphics. So when game models are used, they typically use polygons to model the characters. And usually when there's less polygons, that means there's better graphics because they look better and they look more realistic.
Yeah, something I like to is a little reminder. I like to say the difference between visuals and graphics is visuals is what looks artistically great, while graphics is what technically looks great, on the technical side.
Yeah, exactly.
And there has always been a sort of big argument, especially online, of what is more important. Is it visuals or is it graphics? And as we've both answered, we think visuals are a lot better, or more important to have.
Yeah, I think visuals just have they have better staying power, low key, because with visuals, your game, I notice this a lot. Your game becomes less dated the more visual fidelity there is, the more like visual like I guess the art style. Like here's a good example, like Breath of the Wild example. Like obviously it's gonna get aged as like time goes on because of just like it not looking the best graphically. But the thing is that the game's art style is so pretty that it's really not gonna matter in like 10 years, low key.
Yeah, no, completely. I completely agree. Some of the best like visual games just can stand the test of time, even if their graphics are like not great. I mean, like think of like Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie, like those really old N64 games and how amazing they look still to this day just because of how great their visuals are. They
Oh,
all have
exactly.
they have such a unique and interesting like art style, and like some of my, as I said before, some of my favorite games just have those incredibly captivating and just amazing visuals. And that's, and again, I want to preface before we get too deep into this that just because I prefer visuals does not mean I am a person who dislikes games with graphics. I absolutely love God of War 2018. I think Ghost of Tsushima looks really cool. I haven't played it myself, but I know Guy is, and he can definitely attest to how good Ghost of Tsushima is. But I just want to preface that because I know a lot of people can believe that just because we prefer one thing over the other, that we think the other is bad.
Yeah, and my problem with like this like debate really is the fact that like people fail to account that what it means to be graphically good and like what it means to have like good visuals. So like people think that like having good visuals is like the do or die of like the gaming scene when that's just not true at all. Like God, the amount of people who are like, yeah, the Switch is bad because like, oh, it can't run this, yada yada, are kind of like, I'm not gonna say ignorant, but they're just not well informed of like what it means to like have a good looking game, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. Those are the, usually I see those types of people. They're the same that like absolutely cream their pants over like the new Forza or Call of Duty or Madden that just like keep getting more and more and more realistic as time goes
Yeah.
on.
Oh God, yes, that's such a good factoid.
Yeah, and it's like again, I'm all for good graphics, but as Guy said, the more and more you try and create the technology to make games that look so incredibly realistic and like better than real life on a realistic end, the more and more you are going to end up dating that game because the technology is going to get better and it's going to look worse comparative to like games that come out after it. Whereas if you have games that have an incredibly unique and interesting art style or visuals, stuff like let's use a few popular examples, stuff like Persona 5, Mario Odyssey, just games like that have released like pretty recently or super recently, Astrobot. Those games have such a great art style and visual, uh, such a strong and visceral, like just energy and style to them. Those games are going to stay the test of time because not just because of their great gameplay, but also because of just how visually unique they are and how those visuals are going to be really hard to get dated.
Yeah, no, that's just completely true. Especially in the case of Astrobot, where the game here's what pisses me off about people who don't really like know how I want to say like how the technology of the PS5 works. People will say that like Astrobot could have been on last gen systems because like it's not the most graphically beautiful game. But here's where they have things mixed up. They like to think that good graphics means that the game, like, I don't know. The power of the PS5 means that they need to have a graphically beautiful game, which is just mixed up because the PS5 doesn't strive with with graphics. Like, it is a powerful system for graphics, don't get me wrong. The thing about the PS5 though is that it has such a good and unique physics engine that Astrobot, not the PlayStation 4, can utilize. And the thing is that I think that game does an excellent job of using the physics systems that the PlayStation 5 can utilize, that it becomes a game that's worth the next gen I want to say like household name for PlayStation 5. You get what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not the most graphically impressive game, but because it uses its art style so well and the physics of the game, it needs to be on PS5.
Also, the fact that there are just multiple moments where it will spawn like a bajillion small little objects that you can hit around and like have their own unique physics is just another example of that. Because if that was on the PS4, it would explode.
Oh, with no frame drops either.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is that it doesn't have any frame drops.
No, which is so crazy.
Yeah, and this sort of ties into like, upcoming Switch 2 things of like the Switch 2 is a huge upgrade, because that was sort of like, at least to me, the trade-off most people had to make, is that the games themselves were generational, incredible, and like insanely good for the industry and moving forward when it comes to making games. But because they were stuck on the Switch, they didn't have the best like graphics. But now with the Switch 2, it's getting a massive graphics upgrade, and it's able to run in like 4K. I think it's like 4K, so 720 FPS maybe, or like 1080 with 120 frames per second, which is insane. And there's a lot to like talk about on the Switch 2, and we will most likely be doing a Switch 2 video in the future. But I just like going on the fact that like Nintendo is going to be not only have very good graphical games, but also incredibly good visual games, as they always have, is going to be incredible.
No, of course. And that's the thing about the Switch. Like, yeah, it's not the most powerful system. Like, hell, the Switch 2 is going to be, like, slightly more powerful than the PS5 Pro. Low-key, could not give a shit about it, though, because Nintendo has a consistent quality output of just great visuals.
Yeah.
Like, game quality aside, like, their visuals are just top-notch.
Like, we'll use another recent example, at least I will, of the trailer for Donkey Kong Bonanza. Like, that game just visually looks incredible. It has so much life in every little bit of the game, and it just looks incredible, like from an art style perspective, and I think that's great. And I guess that's probably why Nintendo's always been my favorite out of the big three, just because they obviously are the ones that care the most about art and having a art style, and like caring about those visuals and that art style and the practice of making an art, because video games are an art form, and they do care the most about that, even if they have bad decisions.
This is true. They do have bad decisions pretty often, but like still they're able to make beautiful looking games.
Yeah.
One game I think that masters like art style and I want to say like graphics really well, kind of off topic, is Shadow of the Colossus.
Yes, I will agree, because the graphics haven't aged all that bad, really. Like, yeah, it's not as like great as like God of War 28, like God of War, or Ghost of Tsushima, or Last of Us, or those games, but it still looks phenomenal, both from a graphic and visual style today on the PS4 port.
No, exactly. Like they used the remake as a way to basically like increase the graphical fidelity of the game, but the game has its own unique art style that still holds up to this day, that I think is neat, that should be like celebrated more.
Yeah, no, I really do want to do a Shadow of the Colossus video sometime, but honestly, that's probably going to come out when that new game by the same creator comes out, which we don't even know when that is, but yeah. But something I do want to like go into more is like just what other games we think, what games do we think have great graphics, and what games do we think have great visuals? Like,
Oh yeah,
personally. If you
oh,
want to go first on either
I was gonna
or.
say you go first.
All right. I'll be honest. I'll start with visuals. I do have some that I think are good for graphics, but I think I just have more to talk about games that have good visuals. And my first one is going to be something that probably a lot of people have heard of is Celeste. Um,
Good pick, good pick.
yeah, Celeste is a like 2D pixel art game, and it is just like every environment, every spot you explore, it just looks absolutely beautiful and mesmerizing. And like I really like Celeste is just so one of my favorite games of all time from on every aspect. But the visuals alone make it like just one of the best games I've ever played. It's just so pretty. And I really think the team behind Celeste have like a very good art style and stuff, and I can't wait to see what they do more with it.
I'm hoping they do more with it because last time I checked, they canceled their last game.
Don't remind me, guy. Please don't remind me. I'm pretty sure they said in that post that they are going to be making more games. It's just they canceled Earthblade. That's behind us. I've forgotten about that. I've moved on.
Never forget, Connor.
That really
Never
was.
forget what they took away from you.
That moment really was my 9/11, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Yeah, but let's move on. Another game that I think that we haven't mentioned already that I think also has just incredible visuals is Hi-Fi Rush.
Well, that game has such a good art style. Oh my god.
Yeah, no. Have you played it?
I have, yeah. I haven't finished it. It's very good. I like it so far, but yeah, no. Just like from the opening minutes. Oh my god, that game has good art style.
Yeah, no. I adore Hi-Fi Rush. It's so good. It's I would definitely recommend you guys play it, especially after Tango Gameworks unfortunately got shut down. But they are back. I think the people behind PUBG or I can't remember exactly, but they did get their studio did get revived, which was really nice to see. Um, but I especially love the art style of Hi-Fi Rush. It has this like very comic booky sort of like visuals and art style that I think just looks so nice, and it really meshes well with the gameplay of like a hack and slash rhythm game. And I absolutely I love the art style so much. It's my favorite part of the game. I think it's just so unique and appealing that I feel like you could probably sell someone on playing it, but based off the just look of it alone.
Yeah, no, the look is so fucking good. I think that's like one of the best examples too of like the visuals like doing very well because like you said, the game is so comic booky to its benefit.
No, yeah.
I think God, every time I think about that game's art style, I get like I'm so happy when I'm so glad you mentioned that just now. Oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I would heavily
you're first.
recommend that you finish it because it's so good.
Oh, I know it's good. I just need to actually lock in.
Yeah, but I will also shout out games that I think have good graphics too. I've mentioned it before, but I've only played God of War 2018, but that game's graphics are really good.
Especially for a PS4 game. Like that came out in 2018, dog.
Yeah, I know. Why I'm mentioning it, because like the fact that it looks that good on a PS4 is crazy. Another game I want to shout out, even though I know it's a little controversial, is Horizon Zero Dawn. Say what you will, but the graphics of those games, or at least of the first game, are really impressive and really good. Again, especially on PS4, since that's what it originally came out on. And I think it's great. Like graphically, I think it's just great and really impressive for the time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Like that game, even though it's not like the most graphically impressive game, I do think it actually does have like a really, for the time, I thought it did a really good job of just being realistic. And I know people have memed it to death about like Aloy looking realistic and shit like that being a fucking meme. But like it is like it is an achievement to have something look that graphically great.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. It really is.
But
Um,
what I guess now I got to turn the question on you of like what games do you think have great art styles and or great visuals and great graphics?
I was gonna say, in terms of art style, I really, really fucking love The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Kind of for the same reason with Breath of the Wild, like the cell shading and whatnot. And a game like that, obviously, it's seen its age. Like, it is an old game, and you can tell. But the thing that I love about The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker is that, like, it keeps up its, like, cartoony, its cartoony expressions and, like, art style throughout the entire game. And it just runs with it. And that's the thing about it, is that, like, people ridiculed it at first for like, being, too cartoony. The Zelda series is taking, like, a much less serious approach now. But, like, the thing is, now people look back on it, it's like, yeah, this game actually was amazing. I'm so glad I got to play it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. I think that game, that the visuals of the game got underrated at first, but I know people are starting to, like, come back to it, thank God.
Yeah. I mean, I've always loved Wind Waker and its art style. I think it's one of the best parts about it. I know there was that like sort of like controversy, or not even really controversy of like just like people who were expecting like a very realistic game, and then Wind Waker came out. But I still think Wind Waker is just so unique because of that like cartoony art style.
No, I'm with you on that, man.
I cannot wait to finally play it whenever it comes to Switch Online.
Never. Another game I want to talk about that I think has a very this is a good example of looks terrible graphically, but actually has an amazing art style, is Undertale.
Ooh, yes. I'm very glad you mentioned this because again, Undertale is another like sort of pixel art game, and its visuals are great. But I'll let you explain more.
Yeah, so basically, Toby Fox, the creator of Undertale. If you don't know about Undertale at this point, you've been living under a rock. Basically, the game is 2D pixelated, but the thing is that like the creator Toby Fox uses the 2D art in such a way that's just so visually appealing. It's eye-popping, it's eye-catching, it's very colorful. But even then, like, people can look at it and say the game looks terrible, but the thing is that, like, graphically, sure, but visually, it looks very great. Like, I know everything that's going on from the visuals. It kept me engaged, and like, I love that Toby plays into like the goofy aspect of Undertale with its visuals. It's so good.
Yeah,
It's such a good, yeah.
it's also crazy how Deltarune improves on those visuals too.
Oh, true. It's much more expressive. That's like the best way to put Deltarune.
Yeah, I love the visuals of Deltarune so much. Like you can tell that they've really like built upon and improved what Undertale did, and I think it's awesome.
No, I love it, man. But yeah, no, that's an example I wanted to bring up. What's another one that I think is really good? Fuck. In terms of like very good graphics that I love to death is The Last of Us. Now, I know it gets fucking memed to death how many remakes and remasters The Last of Us has. Here's the thing though. The Last of Us looks really fucking good. Like, memes aside, it looks great. Like, genuinely.
Oh no, yeah, I
Have you played it, Connor? I don't think you have.
I have not played Last of Us, and that's partially due to just the both the memes and also just the reputation I'll say the sequel has.
Yeah. it's a game, that's for sure. But yeah, no. I think that game has great graphical performance. I think that that game really like, well, obviously like Naughty Dog had like their Uncharted series that like really showed them like what like visual storytelling could do in terms of like cinematics, and it also had a really good realistic art style. But my thing is that like The Last of Us, since actually played it, I think it has such a good art style, man. Not art style. The graphics of it are great. Like I know like the meme is like, oh, there's so many fucking remakes and remasters of The Last of Us, which is true. It's not a good thing. But the thing is that like the game looks so fucking good. Even like I can
Yeah.
appreciate the remake for like what it did in terms of like visually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just think that's a good example of like being realistic. And also, this is just me, but because its graphics are so good, I think that it adds to the story and the realism because like it is a dark story. Like it is not something to be taken lightly.
True.
So I think that just kind of adds to it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. But yeah, one last like very good graphical game that I want to talk about. Ghost of Tsushima. You mentioned this earlier, but I think that
Yeah.
game is so good in terms of graphics, and the reason why I think it's really important that that game looks good, even though it was made for the PS4, mind you, is the fact that the game is like set in feudal Japan. It's meant to be played out like a tale, like a tale of legend. Like this actually happened, even though it is fictional. It plays out like a tale that has actually happened, and it adds to the realism and the stakes involved with the game. And I'm just really glad that like a game like that came on the PS4. By the way, it's one of the best looking games on that system. Like holy shit! When you eventually play it, Connor, which please do, it's such a good game. Yeah, I think you'll understand what I mean.
Yeah, I do want to play the game soon. Which I probably will since Ghost of Yote is coming out sometime this year.
Yeah, dude, you've got to. It's so good. Please do. But yeah, no. Getting away from like our like some good examples that we find, I want to talk about the main debate a little bit more between graphics versus visuals a little bit. What do you think, Connor?
Repeat that. Sorry, I don't know how I zoned out of that.
I was gonna say, I want to get back into a little bit with the discussion on visuals versus graphics and like the real debate behind this, because this is something that like is kind of looming over gaming a little bit. So I want to talk about that a little more before we eventually end things off.
Yeah, no, I completely am down for that.
Yeah, hell yeah. What's about to say? So where did we leave off? Just like basically like the differences.
Yeah, we essentially wanted to go over some of our favorite, or some games that we think have both incredible visuals and incredible graphics. But I really think that at the core of this debate, it's just a preference choice. And granted, a lot of people on both sides don't really make the best arguments most of the times.
This is true.
Yeah, because like me personally, I understand why people will like graphic heavy games, like your Forzas, your Last of Us, your whatever, your yearly Call of Duty release. But my big thing as to why I dislike it is that the more and more we push the technology to create these games that look incredibly realistic, the more and more dated those games will eventually become to where they are going to look pretty bad by future standards, and B, the more expensive this stuff is going to end up becoming, which is really important because the more power and technology and resources that they need to not only make the technology run without completely destroying the console, but also to create that for like a bajillion different consoles is going to mean that it's going to be more and more expensive to buy them. I mean, we've already seen that with like PS5 Pro, that's like what, $700. And we're seeing it too with the Switch 2 being $450, $500 if you buy it with the bundle, which granted, it's not that bad. The console price is not that bad. It's just the game prices that suck. But that's sort of the big issue
Big
there.
takeaway with that, yeah.
Yeah, big takeaway is just that, like, I think people who obsess and constantly are demanding for games to look like real life are going to end up just making companies like Sony and Microsoft and then like Nintendo and obviously as well, like, you're going to keep pushing these companies to create more expensive stuff because they need it in order to make these games look more realistic. And Sony's a big proprietor of this because, like, besides Astrobot, I don't think they've made a single game in the past like few years that has any like incredibly it looks great graphically, but you know, the visual side's not the greatest. Like, really the only game I can think of that has like an incredible art style as well as being super great graphically besides Astrobot is God of War 2018. I think that's really it.
Don't forget God of War Ragnarok.
I haven't played God of War Ragnarok, that's why I didn't mention it.
You should. That game is amazing. The
Uh,
haters can fucking hate. They don't know what good games are.
I mean, I want to. I really do want to. It's just I've got a lot of other games on my backlog as well.
No, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, no, I do think a lot of people also misunderstand how just like how important graphics are, not only to people nowadays, but also just the fact of the matter is a good reason as to why games are so expensive, not expensive, but big in terms of like file size, is because the graphics are so fucking like big and a part of like the gigabytes in the thing. Now, obviously, we have a video on this explaining game optimization, but like a really big problem that we're seeing is game devs put so much into the graphics, and they forget to trim down the game a little bit in terms of its file size. And it fucking sucks because, like, I want storage space on my system, please. Can I have it?
Yeah, no, that's the other issue. It's why games like Mortal Kombat 11, or no, is it Mortal Kombat 12? Is that the one that's like
The current one is Mortal Kombat 12, but people
what I
call it 1 for some reason.
Well, that's because that's what it's titled. But
I know.
Mortal Kombat 12 that's why it has such a big file size, because it's a fighting game that also is like very, very, like, I want to say like hyper realistic and stuff like that. Not to say it doesn't have an art style, but it is that a very hyper realistic game when you compare it to something like Street Fighter 6.
I'll be real. Street Fighter 6 does a really good job of blending in art style with realism. But I'm gonna be real. I don't think Mortal Kombat 1 looks that good. I'm gonna be real. I think it looks like shit.
I also agree. I don't think Mortal Kombat 1 or 12 looks that good either. But I just think that's just why it has such a big file size, just because it's trying to be super realistic. And you know, same goes for like Spider-Man 2 and stuff like that, because they're trying to be super realistic with it. But you know, it's also not impossible to make those games have small file sizes, because look at Elden Ring. Elden Ring is great both visually and graphically, and it's only like what, 40 gigabytes?
Yeah, that's with the DLC. That's also like very good example of the art style playing in clutch there, because holy shit, the art style of the game looks phenomenal. But also because they know how to optimize their games and make it look graphically and like artistically great. They know how to like minimize and know what to put in the game, which is super, super nice.
I mean, yeah, and obviously, as Guy said, we have a video going over game optimization, but
Which you should watch.
Yes, but I really think that when it boils down to it, both are very important, obviously, but you can, I will say, you can have games that are really great, that are great visually but not graphically. But I feel like it's really hard to have a game that looks good if it only looks good graphically. You need to have some visual aspect to it, like
Yeah,
a
like
art style.
yeah. What one game I've been playing recently that I think does this pretty well actually is Final Fantasy 16. So the game is it has a realistic it's realistic in terms of graphics. Its art style is that of being realistic. And the game it prides itself on these like hyper realistic like boss fights and like spectacles, which I think look amazing. But the thing is that the game is able to look amazing through being realistic and knowing how to like splice in like I want to say visual fidelity with particle effects, with like the effects of spells, how Clive looks with the world around him. I think that game just does a very good job of just like knowing how to use like a realistic art style. But yeah, no, I think that game just does an excellent job of using like a realistic art style to like show how beautiful the like games on the PS5 can be, and also just having good utilization of just like performance. You know what I mean? The game looks
Yeah.
great, it feels great to play, and because it has a realistic like visuals and uses graphics to like its advantage, the game is able to like look amazing, especially during the boss fights. But yeah, no, that's my thing on Final Fantasy 16. Just had to say that since I'm playing it recently.
Yeah, no, no, no. I completely, I get you, I get you. I also want to play Final Fantasy 16. From what you said, it seems amazing. But I think we're about at our wrapping up point with closing thoughts. What about you?
Dang, I guess we are.
Yeah, so I guess Guy, do you want to go first? I'm fine to go first though.
Sure, I'll go first. So basically with like visuals versus graphics, I am much more of a visuals kind of guy. Just so I think because like visuals I think can look much better like in terms of like I want to say games art styles because I think with graphics it's kind of hard to like it's kind of hard to keep improving graphics when they are near the best they can be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like with graphics, don't get me wrong, some of my favorite games are graphically amazing, and they definitely utilize like their system mechanics perfectly to create like a beautiful looking game. But I'm gonna be real, like all these people switching to PC because they want quote unquote better graphics, I think they just I don't know what is their deal.
Yeah, it's
You know what I mean?
yeah, it's definitely they make a lot of bad arguments because I don't know. It's really hard to like get behind that idea of like having super realistic games that just lack all like art style in them and all the touch of like human art and expression. Like I
Of
know this
course
sounds
not.
like I know that sounds like very over dramatic, I guess, but I will always prefer. That's why I'm a very big fan of indie games too. Is because they can just be a lot more expressive. Because a lot of the times they aren't gonna have a studio bearing like down their necks, trying to get them to make a game that looks like a fucking movie or something. And
I'm with you on that.
yeah, and like for example, like a few like I guess I could go over some like indie games I played recently that I really liked the style of, like art style of. I recently played Helltaker, and I think that game's like visual. It's very short, but the game's visuals are really good, and I think it's just got a very cute, very uh, amazing style to it. Like I mean, it's like a very like 2D sort of stuff like that. I also played Coffee Talk, which is a sort of like visual novel, like pixel art visual novel that looks amazing. I think it's got such a great style to it. I also played Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe recently, and even though that game, it has a, I think it has a good art style too, where it like blends like like semi realism with also with having a very sort of cartoony art style, and I think it looks great. But yeah, I will just always appreciate games that have a more unique, more visually appealing art style over games like God of War. And that's not to say God of War is bad. I would just always prefer expression over realism when it comes to my video games.
I get you, man. I get you. I guess my last things too is that like people need to understand what the difference between graphics and visuals are, and they need to realize that like big graphics doesn't mean automatically beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's you can do a lot with great graphics. Like you can have beautiful stuff like that. For example, Ghost of Yote from the trailers, it looks to have like a very good art style while also being incredibly graphically good too.
Exactly. No, the art style of that game looks amazing. I'm actually really excited for that. But yeah, no. I guess that concludes our video on visuals versus graphics. Kind of a big thing in gaming nowadays, and important to talk about. But yeah, if you like this kind of content, guys, please hit that subscribe button and hit the like button to support us in all of our future videos. And comment down below what you think is the most beautiful looking game you've ever played. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode on visuals and graphics. We've been FetchQuest, and we'll catch you later. See ya!
Goodbye.